Leeds United fans' impatience that led to Jesse Marsch being fired when he did could cost them their spot in the Premier League. That is not an oversimplification. Welcome back to Pints and Punditry here at Total FIFA Career Mode, and today we are checking in on the progress of Leeds United and their coaching change from a few months ago when they sacked Jesse Marsch far too early. And I said it at the time, I did a whole video on why that was too early and why the culture of European football is all wrong when it comes to hiring and firing coaches. And now that we're a few months out, I think you can see exactly why this was the wrong move at the wrong time. Now, I'm not saying Jesse Marsch is the greatest coach in the world, and this is not a knock on Javi Garcia for the fact that he has not immediately turned Leeds around. The whole point here is that ownership and management needs to take a bigger role in the responsibility of why a team like Leeds is not having a good season, and fans need to change their mindset to understand what the appropriate expectations are and should be, and the detrimental effect that firing coaches over and over again every year has on building a winning club. There is no possible way to have stability from start to finish, from top to bottom, down to the academy, in your player recruitment efforts, across the board, when you are having a new person lead the top team every year. Look at what Chelsea's doing. They're spending all the money in the world, and it doesn't matter because they can't get a coach to stick around for more than a year or two. And they fire them too quickly. And that's what happened at Leeds. So everybody was calling for Jesse Marsch's head because Leeds was, in their eyes, struggling. But things have not gotten better. In fact, by almost every possible measure, they've gotten worse under Javi Garcia. And that is not a knock on him as a manager. That is a knock on the way this team was built and the investment or lack of investment that was put into this club. I touched on it on a video when Marsch was fired a few months ago. Leeds made the investment. That's the other argument. They invested in his players. No, they didn't. They were, I think, 16th or 17th in net spend this summer. Yes, they went out and got some players. They also sold Rafinha and Calvin Phillips, the two most talented players on that Leeds roster. That's not an investment. Now, was that going to happen anyway? Yeah, probably, and any manager is going to have to deal with that. But that's sort of the point here is, Leeds' wage bill is 17th in the Premier League. Where do you expect them to be? So you can see it's pretty clear that Leeds did not make the necessary investment to really compete at the Premier League level. When you sell your best two players, that makes it really tough. So firing Marsch was really just a Band-Aid on a much bigger wound. But, there's always the hope that, okay, we'll get the new manager bounce and that'll help save us. Well, that has clearly not happened under Javi Garcia. So by any possible measure, they've gotten worse. Let's take a look at some of these stats. When Marsch was fired, Leeds sat 14th in the Premier League with 22 points, and they were 4 points above relegation and had a -7 goal differential. That was after match week 22. Now, 10 games later, after match week 32, Leeds has dropped 2 spots in the table, sitting 16th. They're -20 in goal differential. They're only 2 points above relegation, and they only have 29 points total. So he's only won them 7 points in 10 games. Things have not gotten better. Now, that is not the only way to go about measuring a team's success or failures. Don't worry, there's more. Goals scored. Under Marsch, they scored 39 goals in 25 games. Under Javi Garcia, it's been 12 goals in 12 games. That's fewer goals per game. What about goals allowed? In 25 games under Marsch, they allowed 40 goals. In 12 games under Javi Garcia, they've allowed 28 goals. Also worse. You want to get more technical. You want to get into some newer age stats. Let's look at XG. Under 20 games under Jesse Marsch, in which XG was tallied because they're not always tallied in the FA Cup games, they averaged an XG of 1.34 XG goals per game. Under Javi Garcia, it's 1.05, also down. Goals against, X goals against. On 20 games, they've allowed 30, so 1.5 X goals against. Under Javi Garcia, it's 1.98, again, worse. Do you like time of possession as an indicator? Under Jesse Marsch, it was 53.2 was their average time of possession per game. Under Javi Garcia, it's 39.6. There is no measure, there is no way to calculate the fact that Leeds has been better under Javi Garcia than it was under Jesse Marsch. And it wasn't that long ago that everybody was so excited about this move. Got to get rid of Marsch. He doesn't know what he's doing. Let's bring in Javi Garcia. He'll be better. It's just simply not the case. Now, I will say they have lost Tyler Adams for most of Garcia's tenure, and that has hurt. He was one of their better players. Definitely did not help. But the point is, it gets back to management. They didn't have a replacement for him. The replacements have not stepped up. And yes, they have made some moves. They went and got Weston McKennie on loan from Juventus during the winter, and they did go out and get players this past summer, but they sold off their best two players in Rafinha and Calvin Phillips, and they didn't adequately replace them from a talent level standpoint. And don't give me the investment argument when you had a negative net spend and you're in the bottom of the Premier League table. So the fact that Jesse Marsch had them 14th when their net spend had been 17th this past summer is actually a win. They did not invest in the team. So this culture of firing the manager as quick as you possibly can, that's the solution all the time. We have no patience. It is so detrimental to what the team and what the club and what the fans are hoping to achieve. I am not exaggerating when I tell you the fans' impatience, Leeds United fans' impatience, that led to Jesse Marsch being fired when he did, could cost them their spot in the Premier League. That is not an oversimplification. They got rid of Marsch, the team has gotten worse. Would he have absolutely kept them up? We don't know. Will they definitely go down? We don't know. But it is closer than it was under Marsch, and things have gotten worse. That is what happens when you are constantly changing the manager at the top of the organization. Marsch was building a system. You may not have loved him as a tactical genius, but he was building a system from top to bottom. He is a good leader. The guys liked playing for him, and he had a system in place. He comes from that Red Bull system, and they have a cohesive top-to-bottom philosophy. The best clubs do, the best organizations do in any sports. Here is our philosophy. Let's get players and coaches that fit that mold. That does not happen when you change the manager every year. So you can see what happens at Leeds when they make a change. Things are getting worse. They got absolutely drubbed by Liverpool, which was the reason I wanted to check in on them and make this video. And you just have to hope that giving in to the impatience of the fans doesn't cost Leeds United their spot in the Premier League. But if it does, and even if it doesn't, let this be a lesson to other owners and management groups not to give in to the fans. And let this be a lesson to the fans. Give your manager time. Give him time to implement his system. Give him time to work through it top to bottom and have a cohesive strategy for your club. Because without it, you're never going to win. There are too many good, smart clubs that probably have more money than your club that are doing it right, and you're never going to compete with them if you're constantly changing at the top. Hit that subscribe button for me down below. Make sure you like this video, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM. Thanks for joining us here on Pints and Punditry. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.